In today's video, we'll be talking about some actors who went to great lengths to get a role. Some gained an extreme amount of weight, while others shed off the pounds until they looked like a skeleton. Surprisingly enough, some actors were capable of doing both of these things. Welcome to Top 10 Beyond the Screen. I'm your host, Johnny Rogers, and before we get into today's list, if you don't want to miss another daily video from us, make sure you tap that subscribe button to join our notification squad. Now, without any further delay, let's get right into today's list, the top 10 actors who transformed their bodies for a movie role. In at number 10, Jake Gyllenhaal. When Jake Gyllenhaal picked up the script for Louis Bloom in Nightcrawler, he was excited to take on the role. It's about a con man desperate for work that muscles his way into the world of LA crime journalism, although the lines start to blur between observer and becoming the star of his own story. In preparation for the role, Jake decided to transform his body by dropping 25 to 30 pounds. Although writer and director Dan Gilroy said that the weight loss was entirely Jake's idea. Dan told IndieWire he would ride his bike 15 miles to the set or run 10 miles to the set, and then he would have a kale salad. I think he was on 1/3 of the caloric intake, so when we're watching him, he's got this weird energy. I feel sometimes when he's in the car with co-star Riz that he's going to eat him. In at number 9, Natalie Portman. In order to fit into her role as a ballerina in Black Swan, Natalie Portman had to endure a punishing schedule. She lost at least 20 pounds by only eating carrots and almonds. Plus, she then had to spend 8 hours a day in rehearsals for the film. Following this extreme body transformation, Portman told Entertainment Weekly that the film left her physically and emotionally drained. Although this is the role where she met her husband Benjamin and began to realize just how wrapped up she could be in a role that could take you down. It was more than just the weight loss that she endured though. Along with not having enough energy to balance properly, you are especially prone to injuries. The most famous was her rib injury that occurred on set and was actually included into the film. In at number 8, Anne Hathaway. While gracing the cover of Vogue magazine back in December 2017, she opened up about how intense her diet was to take on the role of Fantine in Les Miserables, along with chopping off her hair and dropped 25 pounds, and the big rumor was that she was on an extreme crash diet, which meant that she was eating less than 500 calories a day to lose weight faster. Anne told Vogue that she became obsessed with fulfilling the character of Fantine to the max. Although she admits that it definitely took its toll, and Anne said, "I was in such a state of deprivation, physical and emotional, when I got home, I couldn't react to the chaos of the world without being overwhelmed. It took me weeks until I felt like myself again." This really proved that she is extremely committed to the craft, but she definitely appreciated having her husband there to help her through those grueling months. In at number 7, Matt Damon. Matt Damon has gone through multiple body transformations for movie roles, tackling the task of losing and gaining weight as well. In 1996, he drastically changed his appearance for the film Courage Under Fire. Damon had to cut 60 pounds in a very short period of time, and to do so he ran 13 miles a day, although he said the hardest part was just only eating chicken. In 2009, Matt took on the lead role in the film The Informant, but he needed to gain an extra 30 pounds this time. Although this time around it was a lot more fun for Damon, who said that he basically just ate everything he wanted to for a few months. The movie Informant tells the true story of Mark Whitaker, an executive of the mega corporation Archer Daniels Midland, who became an overly enthusiastic FBI mole, caught up in an elaborate sting against the corn industry for, price fixing. In at number 6, Renee Zellweger. For whatever reason, when Renee gained weight to take on her role in Bridget Jones's Diary, she was heavily criticized for doing this. The character from the first 2 novels weighs in at around 130 pounds, but Renee tacked on 30 pounds to her previous weight in order to take on the role. At the time of her weight gain, it was a massive story in Hollywood. During an interview she gave in 2003, she said that she had given up on exercising before filming and admitted that she was only eating really fatty foods. It's really strange though that she took so much heat for this, considering the amount of male actors that put on weight and take it off no problem. For Renee, she was even criticized for when she lost the weight. Then the conversation in the press became about how she was all of a sudden too thin. It really has a lot to do with labels that society puts on females that gain weight and lose weight. Like, for men, you're either jacked, skinny, or have a dad bod. For women though, they have all of these differing labels like curvy, plump, plus size. I understand that perhaps people criticized her for putting on the weight and taking it off because they believe that there is nothing wrong with being plus size, which there isn't. Although when it really comes down to it, she only changed her weight to transform her body to be more believable for this movie role, not for any other reason. In at number 5, Jonah Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill's weight has certainly fluctuated over the years, going from both full figure to extremely lean. I guess guys do have two other ways to describe weight. He really slimmed down though for the action comedy film 22 Jump Street back in 2014. Although when it came time to play the role of the real-life arms dealer in War Dogs, he packed on an extra 40 pounds. Typically, Jonah Hill walks around with a more slender frame, but now that he understands how to safely take off and put on weight, he's leveraged this to his benefit. We all first met Jonah Hill back in his Superbad days, and compared to his burly physique back then, he looks almost unrecognizable as an adult. And I know it's not a movie role, but Jonah really transformed his body in the Netflix miniseries called Maniac, and much like I said earlier, he looks completely unrecognizable, although it could also be his braids. In at number 4, Michael Fassbender. Back in 2008, Michael Fassbender dropped an insane amount of weight to take on the role of Bobby Sands in Hunger. Michael lost 42 pounds to play the young prisoner who led the Second Provisional Irish Republican Army hunger strike back in 1981. Bobby died after 66 days with no food, and off-screen, Fassbender was doing everything possible to properly portray that role. He only ate 900 calories a day, plus he would constantly be skipping, doing yoga, and just going for long walks. When reflecting on the process though, Fassbender said that it was like living in a psychological prison. His final weight before filming was a staggering 127 pounds. He was losing the weight in a semi-safe way by just limiting his daily calories than what his body required, but he definitely took fasting to the extreme to cut down in time. In at number 3, Chris Pratt. Much like Jonah Hill, Chris Pratt has also been known to fluctuate his weight in order to fit into certain roles. When it came time to play his more comedic character for Parks and Recreation, he definitely packed on some pounds. Although when it came down to preparing for roles like Zero Dark 30 and Guardians of the Galaxy, he needed to add on much more muscle. While speaking with Conan O'Brien about his body transformation, Chris said, "I've always been a little soft. I like to eat and I don't like crunches. I had about 5 or 6 months and I really busted my ass to get in good shape." He also admitted though that his abs were very short-lived at the time because almost immediately after he wrapped up with Zero Dark 30, he needed to pack on the weight again. This time he added 60 pounds for his role as Brett in the Vince Vaughn film called Delivery Man. In at number 2, Russell Crowe. For the movie called Body of Lies, Russell Crowe completely transformed his body by packing on an extra 63 pounds of weight. Compared to his time as Maximus in Gladiator, he looks so different as Ed Hoffman in Body of Lies. He looked so different that people actually thought that he was wearing a fat suit. And in preparation for this role, director Ridley Scott called him up and personally asked the actor to transform his body for this part. Ridley asked if he would mind putting on a significant amount of weight because he saw the character as this ex-athlete that had just let himself go. Although when speaking about what it took to get ready, he said that he would happily do it all over again. Russell said that bulking up was a pleasure because he could eat a cheeseburger for breakfast and no one would say anything. He did say that he avoided drinking alcohol in order to gain the weight because of his kids, and at least that's some good foresight on his part. Last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, 50 Cent. 50 Cent absolutely set the internet on fire when he posted about his extreme weight loss while filming the movie called Things Fall Apart. The film was a tribute to a friend of his who had died from cancer, and in preparation for the role, 50 Cent went from 214 pounds to 160 in just 9 weeks by working out 3 hours a day and only consuming liquids. He was so into what he was doing and wanting to accurately portray his friend who had been going through this cancer that he completely let himself go. This photo was taken during the second half of the film's production. His manager even had to tell him to go see a doctor because he was so worried about his health. To make matters even more complicated, 50 Cent had so much muscle on him that he found it difficult to lose definition even as he got slimmer. Many compared his weight loss to that of Christian Bale in The Machinist, but 50 knew that there was no other way to play this role than to fully commit himself. And that has been the top 10 actors who transformed their bodies for a movie role. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to our editors for all of your hard work. If you enjoyed this video, then please show some love here by tapping that like and subscribe button. Plus, don't forget to leave us a comment down below with your thoughts on today's list. And for more videos like this one, all you gotta do is tap that playlist when it pops up. From Top 10 Beyond the Screen, my name is Johnny Rogers, and until next time, stay classy.